you, but I just wanted to reiterate.
No, I appreciate that. I was going to ask all those questions, and I'm like, she'll probably have a rundown of how it works. I'll wait and see.
Yes.
And you did. So, yeah, that's awesome.
Perfect. The only thing that I've noticed is sometimes it can take like 20 seconds after we hit end broadcast before it actually like completes.
Cool.
So just I usually just try to say like, "Oh, hey, everyone's recording is done" or something, and then people can peace out if they got to go after that. Perfect. Oh, which speaking of that chat, Ron, that is the deck list Tom shared with us.
Oh yeah, okay.
For his deck lists from the tournament. Sweet. Everything looks like it is running smoothly on my side. So I think we are good there. Are you both ready to go?
Ready?
I think so. One last swig of water.
All right. Good plan. All right. All right. Here we go. Welcome to episode 31 of the TCCG Roundtable. We're your hosts, dragonrider and RonMexico. And not only Ron is it you and I, but we have a very special guest this week. So excited. We've been chatting back and forth for the last week now, and I'm excited that the day is finally here. So we have with us Thomas Gunn. Hello, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, we are very excited. And Ron, with episodes where we have guests, we usually do a little bit of like a mini interview, I guess. And then later during our main topic, we'll kind of get to pick Thomas's brain a little bit about MagicCon Barcelona and the Pro Tour and everything that happened there. But do you want to kick off the guest mini interview, or would you like me to?
I would love to. So to start off, Thomas, for our little mini interview, tell us about your history with card games. What got you into cards?
So I've been playing cards. I think I started collecting Pokemon cards when they were, I guess, like a couple years after they were first coming out. I remember being like 6 or 7, and if I was good getting a haircut, then I would get like a pack of Jungle or Fossil like as a reward. I just never stopped from there. Quickly moved on to Yu-Gi-Oh! And then by the time I'd always seen Magic cards like in stores and stuff, and then I like just doing like little local level playing with my siblings. I have a lot of siblings, so we had a pretty big collection between the lot of us. And then in college, one of my best friends got me into Magic, and it's been Magic all the time, all the way ever since then, like a decade plus now.
Nice. And I see you probably collected enough cards, so you stopped getting haircuts like me. You know, just we don't need,
yeah,
we don't
no,
need haircuts anymore.
no haircuts. No. Just a little trim on the side, but yeah.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
Don, you want to alternate on questions?
Yes, and you know what? My questions are gonna be maybe more statements for right now. So yeah, I was totally saying in a Discord last night how I'm jealous of your hair, and then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, Ron also has like long, wonderful hair, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna be the one that has like the not long, flowing, wonderful hair on the show today. Like, what is this? So maybe after the show, I'll have to like get your guys' secrets on the great hair. We'll figure that out. But you know,
Happy
it's
to
funny
share.
that yes. All right. We're on we're on a roll. I am glad that you brought up the siblings. Okay, first I'm just gonna ask, how many siblings do you have, if you don't mind sharing that?
I have 6 younger siblings.
Dang. Okay. It's close. I am the oldest of 6. So I'm always
Okay,
curious,
cool.
like, because, you know, other big families. Well, I guess I'll say one of your siblings, actually, Isaac, I was working with last weekend. He's actually doing some production, and I am the tournament admin for a Hearthstone event with Supergirl Gamer Pro. So we were working together, and we're sitting in this production call, and he's just like, "Oh, my brother is at the Pro Tour. And he's doing so well. I'm so proud of him." And I just went, "What? Huh?
I have an in, huh?
I was like, does he want to do an interview? Because that's freaking awesome. So yeah, he got us connected, and I feel like the more that I've learned about you, and you shared some of your socials, which we'll plug later, I was like, what? Where's this guy been hiding? Like, okay, so you play Magic, you're a musician, you have streamed on Twitch, like you do all sorts of stuff. Like, can you kind of talk about what is like what is your kind of mix of doing things like music and also gaming, and how does that kind of affect your, I guess, day to day or just the things that you like to do?
Sure. I mean, I've always kind of identified with the jack of all trades, master of none, and I've kind of turned into a jack of all trades, master of a couple. And so it's something I really enjoy doing, just piecing lots of different things together. I've never really just been the like do the one thing person, which like no shade to anyone who does do that. That works for a lot of people. But for me, I've just needed to do like a little bit of everything all at once. And so that's why I recently changed all my socials to Thomas Does a Lot, which has been something that's been on the back burner for a long time. I play music this whole summer. My partner and I were on this big nationwide tour playing as our acoustic duo. And I had the regionals that qualified me for the Pro Tour at the start of that. And then we added the Pro Tour onto the end of the trip because I had done so well there, which I'm sure we'll get more into later. But balancing it all it's just so much fun. I get to explore all of my passions. I've dipped my toe into streaming, like you said. I'm hoping to get back to that once our trip and our travels are over for the summer, and I'm a little bit more stably in a physical location to get back into that. No, I just love it. I just like doing what I love doing and doing it with cool people and yeah.
Well, that's huge. I mean,
Awesome.
it sounds like something that could lead to like a lot of burnout for different types of personalities. So it's
Right.
wonderful that you have like the right makeup, I guess, that you're able to just like dive into a bunch of different things and not have it detract, but actually add to your experiences. It's incredible.
Yeah. It keeps them all fresh, like not getting burnt out, like you said, on one thing in particular. It definitely get to
Yeah.
kind of shift my focus when I need to. So yeah, it's really
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, and like I've heard that a lot, that people experience burnout if they do hyper focus on one specific thing. So
Mhm.
as long as you've got a balance that works for you, that's amazing. I wanted to sort of, I guess, follow a little bit on top of that with how many other trades are there like in the card game sphere? Is it really just strictly Magic now, or do you still like dabble in any other card games here and there?
It's like 95-ish% Magic. I dipped my toe into Flesh and Blood when that was blowing up. I played Hearthstone when it first came out, like when it was running like betas or whatever when I was in college. Tried that out for a little while. I still have Pokemon. I'm more of a Pokemon, like a casual Pokemon collector more than a competitor. But I kind of keep up with things. I have a lot of friends who are also into Yu-Gi-Oh! And compete in tournaments. So I like see stuff on the periphery, but it's pretty much Magic, like 95 to 99%.
Nice.
That's awesome. I as somebody who also does a lot, I think I've gotten to the point I just start saying like the list of things that I don't do is shorter than the list of things I do. And
Mhm.
for me, that definitely also includes card games, which was kind of one of the reasons that like I started this show in the first place. Was like I just want to talk about all the card games. I used to be somebody who could only play like one and not really play other card games, but it's been really interesting. So speaking of like trying other card games, I don't think this is listed in the notes, but I am kind of curious. Have you heard of Disney Lorcana releasing soon in the next month? And is that something that you might dabble in and try out as well?
If I can get a hold of any cards, then maybe. It sounds like that's kind of the difficult point at this point, but we'll see. It's definitely struck my interest. I'm interested to see how it plays out. My partner is a huge Disney fan, and I'm somewhat of a Disney fan myself, so it's cool to see these IPs kind of have a chance to shine in the space as well. I personally, I kind of hope they don't kind of cannibalize the market and make it a little bit too like I don't know, capitalistic, but I mean, it's a card game, they got to make money, blah blah blah, all of that. I don't know, I just hope it's fun and they have good events and there's a good OP system, and people can succeed at playing games more and more. You know, the more the merrier until there is a problem is kind of my philosophy. So we'll see. I'd like to get my hands on it and we'll see how it goes.
I love that.
Solid.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, gonna be the biggest thing is getting your hands on cards. I've thought about that too. I'm like, can I actually do content with cards when it first comes out? We'll see. I don't know. But yes, I'm very excited to talk more with you about your experience at MagicCon Barcelona and competing in the Pro Tour. As I mentioned, we'll kind of dive a little bit more into that in the main topic. But for now, Ron, do you have any other questions or anything else that you want to talk about with Thomas for like our little mini interview?
We often ask about like proficiency and accomplishments, and that really kind of centers around, you know, the tour stop that you just recently had. So because you do so many other things, I just wanted to ask, do you have like a favorite major accomplishment or something outside of card games with the other things that you dabble in?
Sure. In the one that always jumps out to me if I get asked this question is March 2020, when here in the States everything was starting to look like a lockdown was imminent. I wanted to do something. I heard down the grapevine that like food banks would need a lot of help, like as we started getting into lockdown, and even more people were potentially going to go through food shortages. And so as everyone's gigs were getting canceled, I was living in Vermont at the time. I was like, with my brother Isaac, who you mentioned, Don, he was, you know, coming up in the production space as well. So he knew how to do all the streaming stuff. And I had the music connections in Vermont, and we were like, hey, let's try and put together like a live stream festival and fundraise for the Vermont Food Bank. And we did. It was awesome. We had like 18 acts that all streamed to Isaac, and Isaac put it out into a feed, and I was the host, and I also performed as well and just organized everyone, and it was so much fun. We raised like just under $2,500, I think, in like a 12-hour stream, and I interviewed like local people, someone from the food bank, a professor I had worked with to talk about how the arts should, you know, handle the lockdown and all that sort of stuff. And it was like a really, really huge point that then like led Isaac and I to like explore other sort of like music live stream stuff for a little bit into lockdown. And that was amazing. Just to be able to hit the ground running right at the start and be like, hey, we want to show up, we want to give back. And it was just a huge, awesome feeling. I got shouted out in the local newspaper and like all that sort of stuff. Like that was so much fun and really, really rewarding.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. Good for you. That's amazing to hear.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's super awesome. Again, like maybe this ties into your username. I think I was talking about it in one of probably the production Discord last night. I was like, this guy seems like ridiculous at everything. Like, how does he so good at like all of this stuff? Like the more I've been finding out, that's amazing. And I hope that you continue to do stuff like that, because, you know, tying things in with, you know, the streaming, I think has in the last few years really, really grown, especially because of, you know, the pandemic and things like that. But I think for both gaming and music, I have seen, you know, a lot of growth and a lot of people have success with things like that and following their own path. So I hope that we get to see that for you too. That would be really, really cool.
Thanks. I hope so too.
All right. Well, I think we're going to move on from our interview here and jump into our next topic. But for anybody listening, if you are catching us on YouTube, you will be able to find links where you can find some of that music and other gaming related stuff from Thomas. We'll have all of those links and he'll plug it later in the show, but you can find those in the show notes and the description on YouTube. But for now, honestly, I'm just going to skip what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is interviewing cool people. So let's go through our topics here. Ron, you want to do a quick rundown of this week's term of the week?
Absolutely. So term of the week for this week, just a quick one, a fairly simple one. Some of the keywords can get a little complicated. Some of them are pretty straightforward. And this week's is Divine Shield. If you're playing Hearthstone, other card games might call it like shield, or have shield counters, or any number of different things. And what it means is just that when a creature or a minion takes damage from a source, the very first source it takes damage from is ignored. And it's a fun little effect that you can use, especially if you combine it with another keyword, like, they're forced to attack this minion first or something. Just a way to protect either an important, powerful minion that has an effect you need to get off, or a way to protect yourself or other minions from damage or otherwise. Just a cool little effect I like seeing in Hearthstone, especially, and hope to see a bit more of outside of, again, for Hearthstone fans, mainly just Paladin kind of has access to that, but sometimes other things have it, and it creates some flavor. But yeah, it's a cool one.
Awesome. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that in other games, but it's kind of interesting to see how that's become a thing in certain games, or how games utilize that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think it's time to get into some news. So for our news and competitive play this week, we are just going to do a quick rundown. So I'll talk about the news here. And if either of you have anything that you want to mention as we go, just, pop in. But otherwise, I'll just kind of bust through these. So for our general news, we do have GenCon that is happening. It already started. It started yesterday, Thursday, August 3rd. It's going all the way through Sunday the 6th. So all weekend long, 4 days of gaming. And a couple like big card game related pieces that I wanted to mention that are happening at GenCon is that Disney Lorcana that we already mentioned is having a lot of like starter decks type tournaments and events that they're running. I know that was super, super like packed and full with attendance. The lines, I've been seeing images on social, and it's like the lines for Disney Lorcana are ridiculously long. So very excited to see what's going to kind of come out of Gen Con and people's experience talking about Disney Lorcana. As well, Magic is actually hosting their Magic at 30 panel that is happening Saturday, August 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern. I believe I saw that that's also going to potentially be uploaded later to their YouTube. So if you're interested in kind of what Magic has to announce, there's always a ton of things happening with Magic. So no slowdown in news there. For Hearthstone, did want to mention that this past week, we did get the Titans expansion launch, and that came out on Tuesday. For Flesh and Blood, they did announce their next and upcoming expansion, which is called Bright Lights. It does look to be like a cyberpunk type theme, which is pretty interesting. It's got 251 cards. That preview season for Bright Lights will be starting on September 22nd. And then the 29th through October 2nd is going to be pre-release events. And then the set will fully release on October 6th. And of course, talking about Magic, MagicCon Barcelona just happened this past weekend. We're going to dive more into that shortly here. With that, we also, and around socials, we've also been seeing reveals starting for Magic the Gathering's Universes Beyond Doctor Who set, which has been really cool to see, especially I think after this Lord of the Rings set. So seeing Doctor Who stuff has been really interesting. And it's been very cool to see that they have posted some images. Some of the cards have like a Tardis border on the edging, which is super cool. They're doing serialized doctors and a bunch more. So I'm very excited to see like what all is going to continue coming out with that. And then MagicCon Las Vegas appears to be the final MagicCon event for 2023. And that is happening September 22nd through the 24th. And I think Ron's going to mention a little bit more about that in our competitive play section. And then
before you move on from Magic too,
yes.
Other Magic news, right? The One Ring was found and sold to Post Malone for like $2.6 million,
that's
something
right.
like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Shattered the record for most expensive Magic card. I'm looking forward to hearing when Thomas works up enough capital to buy himself a One Ring.
I'll keep you posted.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes, that was pretty interesting. Although I will say I'm pretty glad at least that Post Malone, being a huge actual like Magic player and fan of the game, was somebody who was able to get that, and it didn't go to like just some collector who like has no idea what it is and just wanted it for collector's sake.
Agreed.
So it's cool that somebody in the community actually got that. So yeah, definitely was cool to see. I forgot about that. Yeah, seems like big news. Moving on to Pokemon, we can talk about the Scarlet and Violet Obsidian Flames expansion that is coming out very, very soon. That is coming out August 11th, and then August 25th, kind of a little bit beyond that, the Obsidian Flames Build and Battle Stadium kind of box, which is going to be pretty interesting. It's going to allow players to have a lot of cards, tokens, additional items to be able to create 2 decks to start battling right away and kind of get them into the game. With Legends of Runeterra, we did have a game director video. So Dave Guskin is the game director for Legends of Runeterra. Put out another dev snapshot video. It's just over 4 minutes long, so not very long at all, but there's a lot of information in that video. If you want to check it out, we have the link there, and it is the mid-year update, so definitely check that out for LOR. And the last note here is that the DC Dual Force open beta is still currently running. So if you are a DC fan or you want to try new card games, that is currently PC only, but it does seem like they are working on some mobile adaptations and moving beyond that. So currently PC only, but if you do want to try that is in open beta. So you don't need to have any kind of beta codes or any code at all. You just go to the website, sign up, and start playing.
Yeah, we're in kind of a golden age for all these
so
things.
good.
Like, I mean, I remember as a kid, like reading comics here and there, and occasionally I'd get some Marvel comics, occasionally some DC and stuff. And there were some cool characters. I never could have imagined that like they'd make gigantic movies and now there's card games for all those things. Just every bit of media that you want, you have access to it. It's kind of cool.
That's right. Yeah. We were nerds before being nerd was cool. Let's go.
Yeah. It feels good. You get bullied for it early on, and now you're in your prime.
It's paying dividends now, yeah.
Exactly. All right, Ron, what do we have for competitive and organized play?
All right, so competitive and organized play, starting with Hearthstone, we have the upcoming Masters Tour that is going to be later this month. Our top players have already been announced, and they're currently trying to figure out this meta and see if they'll change the meta at all before the Masters Tour, which hopefully they will not. It's coming up August 19th through the 20th with our 16 players previously announced that will be participating. In Pokemon, we have Worlds that is happening in Japan, and that is August 11th through the 13th. So just around the corner. Next week, we'll be seeing that go down.
I'm very excited for Worlds and Pokemon. It's been my watching VGC has been like my go-to. Okay, I'm like 3 to 4 days out from a big tournament. I don't want to watch more Magic while I'm trying to wind down before bed. I need something else. And I just got hooked on VGC this season, and it's been so much fun to watch. Oh my god, I'm very excited for Worlds.
We're super excited for Amber Flight Gaming's own Nails, who's going to be competing in the VGC section. So yeah, it's very exciting and almost
Nick.
here. That's right. And then let's see, next up for Magic, of course, and we'll talk more about this in our main topic, but the Pro Tour Lord of the Rings happened this past weekend at MagicCon Barcelona. MagicCon Las Vegas will host the Pinnacle Premier Level Play event of the season, 2022-2023 season, the Magic World Championship, as well as the new 100K Limited Open. For Yu-Gi-Oh, we have the next Yu-Gi-Oh Championship Series event taking place in Cancun on September 16th through the 17th. And the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG World Championship is happening this weekend in Tokyo. For Legends of Runeterra, this weekend is the Heart of the Huntress Worlds Qualifier Runeterra Open. Broadcasts begin Sunday, August 6th, with regional coverage for Asia Pacific, Europe, and Americas. And for Flesh and Blood, we have USA Nationals at the Westgate Las Vegas Report and Las Vegas Resort, and a calling event will be happening August 25th through the 27th. So yeah, it is the busy season for sure. August, everything's going down. We got a whole bunch of things. Just everyone's ramping up.
Yeah, definitely a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be pretty interesting, and I still get sad every time that you read for other card games that aren't Hearthstone about the broadcasts and regional broadcasts. I'm like, oh yeah, we used to have that. Oh.
Hey, I used to play in Masters Tours, but then they cut the field from like 400 to 16, and I'm like, well, I'm not in the top 16.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know, this is the great thing. Like, we'll just, you know, as Thomas was mentioning, you know, watching VGC, it's like, all right, we'll just like, you know, kind of live precariously through other card games and like watch their competitive stuff then, and just hope that we maybe get something like that for Hearthstone again at some point in the future.
Yeah, surely it'll happen.
Surely. Or we'll just start competing in other card games. Maybe that's the route to go.
Yeah, come play some Magic.
That's right. Well, you know, speaking of competing for, you know, other card games, let's talk about it. I'm so excited to actually kind of sit down with you, Thomas, here and talk about like your experience, talk about the whole Pro Tour thing. And can I just first say, like, that is freaking awesome that you got to go to this event in Barcelona and compete. Like, that's so cool to me. Like, how many places have you traveled to, or do you hope to travel to?
Oh, thank you. It was absolutely crazy. This was my first trip overseas. This was my first trip to Europe. Growing up in Vermont, it was pretty easy to get into Canada every once in a while. So that was like, I've technically traveled internationally, but when it's, you know, a land border in the States, it doesn't really feel like it counts. But no, it was my first trip overseas, which was incredible. And I mean, I would love to travel more, especially after going now. Just I have the bug. Like, let's go. Like, whenever we get a trip to Hawaii, I'm sure we'll have a Pro Tour in Honolulu at some point. That was always a favorite spot back in the day. Just anywhere. I'd travel anywhere to play Magic. It sounds great.
Yeah, Barcelona is a really great spot to kick off traveling. Like, you might have got a little spoiled there with that being the first one. That's incredible.
I agree. I do feel spoiled. It was a beautiful city. People were really friendly. The metro is great. It's just the architecture is incredible. Food was amazing. Yeah, it was awesome. My partner went too. We celebrated her birthday while we were there. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Nice.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, talk about good timing. Like, hey, how about for your birthday this year, we go to Barcelona? Also, I'm going to play some cards. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'm going to be in a convention center all weekend, but you can go explore. And that's what we did. It was great. And like, if I don't do well, then I get more exploring time. But that didn't quite happen. We'll get some more of that later, I'm sure.
The trick is to position it like a win-win, like you did. So that's right. That's perfect. You know, you're like, okay, either I lose early and we spend more time together, or good things happen competitively.
Right.
Love it. So I guess on the back of that, can you talk about your overall experience with the specifically like in the Pro Tour itself, talking outside of, you know, Barcelona and the city and the events? How was the event itself? How was the tournament?
So it was my first Pro Tour, which was a huge accomplishment in and of itself. And it was amazing. It was like everything I dreamed it would be or could be from a Pro Tour experience. Everyone was pretty much everyone was friendly and chill. Like all my opponents, we were in our own like section of the hall where the whole rest of the MagicCon was happening. So we still, were part of the MagicCon, but kind of had our own little separated Pro Tour section, which was kind of nice. The players also had our own little like lounge area where we had water refilling stations and little sandwiches and yogurts and coffee and all sorts of snacks and stuff to keep us hydrated and refreshed, and like screens and couches where we could watch coverage. They took really good care of us. Like we got backpacks full of swag, and it was really, really cool.
Nice.
The experience itself of actually just getting to play against the other like 268 best players in the world was absolutely wild. It was cool to be in that spot after watching coverage for so long and feeling like, oh, okay, it's something I experienced in the regional championship in Dallas prior was, okay, I've improved enough in my game that I feel like I can hang with these people. Like it's definitely hard, and I definitely got lucky in some spots at the Pro Tour, but like I felt like I could hang here. Like I've got a lot to learn, and I'm certainly not the best player in the room, but like I can play Magic here, and everyone's just trying to play Magic. And I think that once I got over the hump of like, oh, I punted against a professional player in my second round and lost the match because of it, and it's well, okay, cool. Well, I got that Pro Tour experience out of the way, and I'm like, okay, let's just keep playing Magic. Let's just keep doing the best I can and just focus up. Just like it's just one round at a time, and like all of those usual adages. No, it was amazing. It was amazing. The coverage team was also really into highlighting people who had played their first Pro Tour. And so I got to be interviewed the night before at like the players registration meeting, and where they had like a dinner and people could draft and all sorts of stuff. And so I got a little spot there, and the coverage guy who was doing those interviews was keeping track of us throughout the tournament for coverage, for storylines. And so like he got to like tell my story, and then the eventual winner, it was also his first Pro Tour. So like It was like a huge like moment for a lot of people, and it was really, really cool. It was a really, really cool tournament. A lot of big name players did really well. Some new faces did well. It was really, really cool.
Nice.
Oh, that's
Glad
so
to hear
cool.
Glad to hear it was like handled and like early on your main necessities were taken care of, because like step one is like, okay, where's the food, where's the bathroom, you know,
Right.
and then you're like, okay, now I can focus. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. The
Yeah.
only issue I think logistically was that the building's AC was either it wasn't working or there was something going on with it, and so it was stuffier in the building than a lot of people would have liked it to. To some people really didn't handle it very well, or were not able to. Like someone got heat stroke or had to leave. There were a couple anxiety attacks. Like that was not great. I was okay. I was definitely like stuffy and a little uncomfortable, but I was generally okay. But there were some people who did not have a good time, and they said like on Twitter or other places that or excuse me, on X, I guess, on other places that they weren't feeling it. It kind of affected them mentally. So I feel for those people, and I definitely was aware of it, and that's definitely something I hope that Wizards will take into account in future venue selection decisions.
Dang. Yeah, it's amazing. I think we've had some episodes where we've kind of talked about prepping for tournaments and kind of tournament experience and like convention experience. And, Ron was alluding to that with this comment of like, find food, find the bathroom. Because like, those are things that we really harped on, like, map that kind of stuff out. But yeah, even things like the AC or heat, or being able to make yourself comfortable. That's a huge thing, especially when you have to sit there and potentially play hours and hours and hours of competition. That's something that definitely can impact people, and not only physically, but as you mentioned, that can impact your mental state while you're trying to compete in these events too. And yeah, I can imagine that definitely would have not been very great for some competitors there. So it's unfortunate to hear, but I'm glad that it ended up not factoring in as much for you, though.
I'm grateful as well.
Well, let's talk about the actual competition itself then, if you don't mind. And, I think I saw in kind of the standings when Isaac had sent that to me, like, yeah, we were running the Hearthstone broadcast, but like he was messaging me a little bit like, here's this info, here's the stats. I was like, all right, I'm like trying to follow along, like as we're running this other tournament. And then you sent us the link to your deck here, and it's a what I guess was being called mono white hammer deck. Now, can you talk about like your deck a bit, and kind of give a breakdown, like what is the deck, what's the goal of the deck, like what is it meant to do, and then a little bit more beyond that about just the tournament meta and kind of the decks overall. How did yours compare to other decks? And if there is a little bit that you can explain, like about your decks or other decks for people that maybe aren't as familiar with Magic.
For sure. So I'll give a little context for the tournament structure. So the Pro Tour is typically 2 days of competition. You have to go 4-4 or better to make the second day. And each day is 3 rounds of draft with the latest set, and then 5 rounds of a constructed format that they obviously let you know ahead of time. The constructed format for this one was Modern, which for anyone who is listening or watching doesn't know, Modern takes pretty much cards from like 2003 or 2004 up to the most recent printings. So it's a non-rotating format, or an eternal format that we sometimes call it. And Modern also has had now the Lord of the Rings being the 3rd set that has been printed directly into Modern. So skipping anything newer, skipping standard sets, et cetera, et cetera. So the constructed format was Modern. And my deck is called, as you said, Mono White Hammer. And what Hammer tries to do is try to kill people with a cheap equipment called Colossus Hammer. It costs 1 mana, and it gives the equipped creature +10 power, +10 toughness. The caveat being it usually has an equip cost of 8 mana. And so you play a bunch of spells. There's an enchantment and there's a creature in particular. 2 enchantments now, actually, which I'll get to, that try to equip the hammer for free. So you play cheap, evasive threats, or threats that are good at replacing themselves. You find ways to find your hammer, and you find ways to attach your hammer for free. And so you can what we say is bonk people with the hammer as quickly as turn 2, 3, 4, and so on, just in chunks of 10 to 20 damage in one hit. So you're trying to kill people quickly. You're trying to navigate around the common removal spells that other people are playing in the format, and just try and get the job done as quick as possible. In terms of where it sits in the meta, going into the tournament, every podcast you would listen to would say, hey, everyone, you probably shouldn't bring Hammer to the Pro Tour. Probably shouldn't do it. There was a card, the One Ring got its own card in Lord of the Rings, and it's very good against Hammer because it gives, when you play the ring, it gives you protection from everything for a whole turn cycle, which means your opponent's creatures can't hit you, can't damage you. And there are a couple different ways to kill through damage with Hammer, but it's all damage based. So the ring's protection ability is really bad against, really, really good against Hammer. And then the ring lets you then just like draw a bajillion cards over however many turns, and the game can just, because Hammer wants the game to go as short as possible, as few turns as possible, and so the game just gets away from you at that point. So between that and a couple other cards that got printed and other decks that got better because of other Lord of the Rings cards, it was not looking good for Hammer. And then a couple weeks, like maybe a weekend or 2 before the Pro Tour, this other deck that had been like around the top of the metagame, it's called, on the Pro Tour they called it Red Black Evoke, but we all call it Red Black Scam. I guess they just didn't want to say the word scam on the broadcast for whatever reason. I don't know. I'll let them answer that question if they ever need to. But it essentially is abusing cards that were printed in Modern Horizons 2 back in 2021. They're called the Evoke Elementals, where you can pitch a card from your hand, play them for free temporarily, but then there's a 1 mana card that can make them come back for free, make them stick around if they die, and you get to enter the battlefield again. You just do these ridiculous things with 3 cards and 1 mana to just scam your opponent out of the game. And so that deck became really, really popular. It was like 5 out of 8 lists in top 8 of like the Magic Online challenges, like leading up to the Pro Tour. And because everyone thought, oh, this is how we attack the meta. We just like rip cards out of their hand super quick and just put a quick clock on the board, and we're just going to kill them. And so that deck, myself and other Hammer players have felt favored against with some new cards from Lord of the Rings, and just how we've changed our deck to play the white of these Evoke Elementals, Solitude, as ways to combat what Scam is doing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to put a couple extra cards for Scam. if people are, there's the scuttle is that this is going to be like the number one deck of the Pro Tour. And it turned out that it was. Scam ended up being like 20% of the room, which is a huge number for a modern Pro Tour because there's so many viable decks. And then from there, the metagame was pretty much what I sussed out to be, except that the third most played deck ended up being the third and fourth most played decks ended up being good matchups for me that I did not expect people to play as much of. And so I ended up having a lot better of a matchup spread at this Pro Tour metagame than people thought that Hammer would, which was absolutely wild. I think I only played against one like truly atrocious matchup in all of my constructed rounds. It was absolutely wild. So and now everyone's like, yeah, Hammer would have actually been a really good choice for the Pro Tour. And the blue-white Hammer list and the mono-white Hammer list, although it was a very small sample size, we finished, the blue-white list was third place in all of the constructed win rates, and the mono-white list was the fifth most played. And a little self brag, the mono white list had a total record between two pilots of 9 and 6, and 8 of those wins are me. So yeah, I did okay. I did okay at my first Pro Tour. It was wild. I'll throw in here, I had my back against the wall the whole time. I went 1-4 into having to rattle off 3 in a row to make day 2 in the first place. And then I didn't do well in my second draft. I was at 5 and 6 and had to win 5 in a row to get to where I ended up 10-6, which was which we'll get into a little bit later, but that was good enough to requalify for the next one. So nice. long story, but that was essentially what led me to the choice. I've been playing Hammer for like a year plus, being on the road on this music tour that I mentioned earlier. I knew I wasn't going to have a ton of time to practice constructed. Like it's easier to practice drafting on computers, like whether on Arena just to get familiar with the cards, and then Magic Online when I want to make sure I'm playing against the right level of competition. That was easy enough to like find space to do stuff, but like dedicated constructed testing was really difficult to find time for. So I knew I just had to play something that I knew what I was doing with. It was going to feel good in my hands. I love playing this deck and having fun in tournaments that are going to be like, if I make day 2, 16 rounds of Magic, like I want to be like having fun while I play too. That's really important to me personally as a competitor. And so knowing that this is what I was going to play just took a lot of stress off my plate of like, oh, am I going to waffle between what is like the best deck or what other people think I should play or whatever. So that was really helpful and just helpful for me personally, which was also a strategy I applied in Dallas and then ended up doing well in a different format as well. But and a similar thing happened there. I'm rambling a little bit, but a similar thing happened there where people were like, don't play Blue-White Spirits in Pioneer. And I was like, I'm going to play Blue-White Spirits in Pioneer because I don't think the matchup against the best deck is as bad as you think it was. And I didn't lose a match to the best deck all weekend in Dallas. So, and of course, small sample size, it could have just things break your way sometimes to do well in tournaments like this. But it happened to break my way these couple of times. So here we are.
I think in any tournament, you do have to always get a little bit lucky just with the massive field of players and how many people are really good and really know what they're doing. But a lot of that also speaks to your skill level and your read on the meta and how you approach the game. When it comes to specifically like your style, it speaks to me so much because it's like you stick with the comfort level, like practice. You've got like so many reps on a deck or a style. And if you stick with what you know and what you're good at, you win more of your bad matchups because you know all of the ins and outs rather than I went with the meta call that everyone else says I should do because of this and that. And I'm not really that familiar with it, but the stats say this is the better thing to do. So I guess I should just do this. And then you find yourself uncomfortable the whole time and a little bit upset sometimes that you didn't bring a different thing because why didn't I just bring what I knew, And I mean, the Hammer deck is like, oh my God, it speaks to me right now. I can summarize it as Hammer go face good.
Yes. It's a burn deck in a much quicker and bigger chunk.
Yeah, I love it.
Yep. That's my kind of style too. I was looking at the deck list last night as I was putting some of the show notes together, and I was like, yeah, this seems like a deck that I would want to play. This seems really cool.
It's very
But
fun.
absolutely, yeah, like comfort is something. I mean, Ron and I have also been, competing mostly in Hearthstone, but again, kind of some of those concepts for card games, they go across all of the card games, right? Like comfort
Mhm.
level. And then when you start factoring in other things, as you mentioned, that's a lot of rounds of competitive cards to play. Like you have to still kind of be sharp and be thinking about your plays or know what your cards do at the very end of those rounds. Like you still have to be going for those wins, whether it's the first round or the last round. And even other things, as you mentioned, like maybe no AC, that can impact. And it's like if you're sitting there trying to grind, all of these rounds with a deck that you then also have to really, really focus on and think super hard about, and you're trying to think, oh, what did this podcast or what did this stat sheet say would get me 2% more win rate against this other deck, and you're trying to analyze that while you're sitting there with no AC, in this, like, that's just, it's not going to cut it, right? So like you got to bring, I think, the things that you are comfortable with. And honestly, some of the interviews that we've had on this show, I think that is a very common concept that we've talked about with some of these top competitors is they talk about bringing decks that they know that they're comfortable with. And especially even if that means bringing decks that are not necessarily like the meta picks or things like that you also mentioned. We've had people who have played in very high level Yu-Gi-Oh who said that they're like, yeah, I just brought this thing and it threw everybody off. Nobody expected it. Same thing with Magic, same thing with Hearthstone, right? And it's so interesting to see that across multiple card games and hear that over and over from competitors and people who do so well. It's like, I'm starting to see a pattern here, but there is always that concept of talking about meta decks and analyzing what the bring probably is. But it's always kind of interesting with tournaments as to what people actually end up bringing versus what people suspect is going to be brought. I feel like it's always slightly different on what people actually anticipate.
Oh yeah, I would say, like, to add on to that the one major thing that I really picked up on you saying, Thomas, was you wanted to have fun with it, and like it's a competition. There's money on the line. Sometimes people lose sight of the fact that they are playing a game that is supposed to be fun, and I think it enhances a lot of people's performance if it's like, well, I just want to play this deck that I really enjoy playing. And hopefully the deck that you really enjoy playing is also good at a competitive level and you can actually win with it. If it's not, then you're probably not in that position. But like that focus right there, let me go out there and have fun. It makes a huge difference.
I agree. It definitely helped keep me sustained like through the rounds that I did lose and just be like, all right, like I did, showed up, did my best, and like I'm out here, I'm just having a great time. I'm at the Pro Tour. Like just being at my first Pro Tour already just felt like gravy. Like I was just like, whatever happens, I'm here, I'm in Europe, I'm at the Pro Tour, I'm meeting all these people I've like known of or looked up to for years, and just like all this stuff is happening, and I'm here with friends and making new friends and just playing good Magic, and then it end up having a good result to follow that up with. So like that, it all, as much as I don't like to use the philosophy of just like, I'm, the thing that people hear with like people who make like top eights of these like Pro Tours or other like big events, of just like, you'll get the person who it's their first one and they're like, well, I'm just happy I got here. Like you gotta stay locked in. You gotta like, okay, cool. Yes. Be happy to be here, but also like play good Magic, like play good Magic. That like part of that mental game is also important too. But I think that being able to find a balance with that really, really helped me, of just like, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to have a good time. I'm here to do well and focus and try to win as many matches as I can. But I'm going to have fun first and foremost. I'm going to be, cordial and friendly with my opponents. Like I want to know where they're from and how their drafts went earlier in the day and things like that. But like, I also am like here to play Magic. And so I finding that balance, I think, was really, really important to me, to speak to your point on that.
Yeah. Nice. I hope you had a great day. I hope you're having a great time. Also, here's a hammer to the face.
Yes. The gingerbread man is holding it and is about to kill you. Oh my god.
Oh, it's fantastic. I saw that artwork and I honestly had not seen that card. So I will say I grew up and I learned Magic when I was like, 8 years old, 10 years old. So I started really young. I played, through like teenage years and then kind of dropped it for a while. And over the last couple of years, I've really started to try to pick it up, even though it's been kind of casual. So I haven't been like as invested necessarily as learning all the cards or watching all of the reveals and knowing what's happening. But I was looking through that deck and I saw that gingerbread card and I just went, "What is this? I love it so much, but what is this?" It was so good.
I love Gingerbrute. It's just it's such a perfectly designed Magic card flavorfully, because he has haste, so he's fast, and he has an ability that you can't block him unless the blocking creature has haste, so you can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man, and then I just give him +10/+10, and so it's a good time.
I love it.
So good. Well, even though you were having fun and playing a deck that you enjoyed, you also did really well. And as you mentioned, there were some benefits that came along with doing well and having some wins. So can you talk about kind of what the wins meant, what the records got you in terms of like rewards? You mentioned a qualification. So kind of, can you just talk about like what were the break points there? What did you end up getting out of it? And what does that mean for your competitive journey moving forward? Because I actually honestly didn't even know that this was your first Pro Tour. Did not know that.
Sure.
So I'm super excited.
Thank you. I mean, I'm excited too. There's always this thought of like getting on the train with like these like professional level premier organized play systems, and like if you can chain a bunch of stuff together, then you're on it. And so like I'm now all of a sudden just like at the beginning of that out of nowhere. So I'm really excited. So how it worked out is like 4/4 or better made day 2, and then later on in day 2 you get to figure out where all the things break down. So it was 12/4 or better locked up. It was most likely the size to lock up your top 8 berth at that point, but also 12/4 or better would lock a Worlds invite in Vegas, and then below that they had set the requalification for the next Pro Tour record for the previous 2 this season was 9 and 7. Anyone who had 9-7 or better would get requeued for the next PT, regardless of point systems or whatever. And I'll speak on that too in a second, how that one works. Then for this one, they shifted it to 10 and 6. And I was kind of hoping it would stay at 9 and 7, because that feels like still a positive record in my first PT, still a very, a goal to reach for. But that feels, compared to needing to go like 11 and 3 for top 16 in regionals with 1,200 players, like that, if you can make it into day 2, it feels a little bit more achievable, although you are playing against the best of the best. So like, you never know what's going to happen. So it was 9-7. They changed it to 10-6 because I think they just had it that way to start seeding going back into paper Pro Tours and get a bunch of players just like kind of on the train for the first few. So I knew, okay, 10-6, that's like my requalification goal. But of course, my goals in order were win a match, and then after that, try to make day 2, and then after that, see if I can try to requalify. So I make day 2, get to 4/4. My draft, like I said before, my draft doesn't go well. I'm 5-6, and I battle my way up to a 10-6 finish, like 5 in a row. And just back against the wall the whole time. That 10-6 cues me for the next Pro Tour in Chicago in February. It'll be the first one of the next season. And then looking ahead to that one, in order to keep people queued for Pro Tours, instead of doing like pro points or anything like that they've done in the past, they have this system called adjusted match points. So if you have 39 or more adjusted match points over the last 3 previous Pro Tours, you automatically have a qualification for the next one. So how that works is every match win in Tournament Magic counts as 3 points in like the scoreboard throughout the standings in the round. And for adjusted match points, they remove after your first 3 match wins, after your first 9 points, then the match points start counting towards your total to try to get to that 39 over 3 Pro Tours. So with a 10-6 finish, see if I can do some quick math, that gives me 21 points. So if I go 9-7 or better in Chicago, that gets me to exactly 39, which will essentially queue me for the next 2 Pro Tours, because the Pro Tour after the season 2 Pro Tour after Chicago will still see Barcelona and Chicago, and the Pro Tour after that will also still see Barcelona and Chicago within the previous 3. So now I have like this like definitely concrete goal to work for, like to work towards in Chicago, which is amazing. Like I had a friend who I used to play with in Vermont that we reconnected, and he top 16 Pro Tour Minneapolis back in May. And then, so all he needed in Barcelona was like 8-8 or better, and he's queued for the next 2 based on how these points work. And he was able to get pretty much just that, and now he's queued for the next 2. So we'll be working together for the next one, which is super great. Yeah, so it's this great system to incentivize people to, you know, just people with a regular day 2 consistent finish over the last 3 Pro Tours can queue for the next one. So once you're on the train, and you're doing reasonably well, it's some people are calling it, they like it better than like the old Pro Point system, for just someone who just like me, who has been working really hard and then happens to spike a regional, and now I'm on the Pro Tour and I spike a decent finish, and so now I have a shot at like continuing to chain those together. So it's absolutely crazy, absolutely nuts. I'm really excited to get to work on Chicago. But other than that, because I did well in the regionals in Dallas, I also requeued for the regionals in Atlanta at DreamHack in December. And so although I already am qualified for the Pro Tour that has invites for, if I end up doing well again and would earn a Pro Tour invite, they drop the Pro Tour invite to like the next lowest person below top 48 for that. So I wouldn't be like eating someone else's invite. So I can still have a shot, like the first and second place get Worlds invites at the regionals. So like, you know, fingers crossed, maybe I do really well and can scoop up a Worlds invite early. But, you know, I'm not going to try and make day 2 first before I get into any of those sort of ideas. But I have a bunch of my local, I've been in Nashville for the last couple of years. And so a bunch of my local friends and teammates there have all been... 2 or 3 of them now have qualified for Atlanta as well. So I'm going to work together and try and get them on the Pro Tour as well. And just, you know, because it's all about the gathering. That's what people always say, Magic the Gathering. Like it really, really is about the gathering. And so like, I just want more friends on the Pro Tour. That's the plan.
And I mean, it's always good, just more competition and keep you sharp. So even if there was no other reason to go to DreamHack, that would be enough.
Agreed. They just gotta stay fresh. These big tournaments are so much fun.
Metas can change fast, so it sounds like you have a great like support system and practice group as well, which I think is really huge for people that are trying to like make it to the top. So definitely rooting for you.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. We will definitely be following and rooting for you in these next couple. It's so exciting. And as somebody who, you know, as I've mentioned, I've kind of been trying to get more into like following all of this. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to keep up with all of the different card games and all of their different systems and points or qualification things. So that was a fantastic breakdown. Thank you. And yeah, I am super excited. You know, I actually forgot that DreamHack also has been really getting into Magic. DreamHack used to be somewhere I know Ron has competed and won a Hearthstone tournament at a DreamHack. I've been to DreamHack. Sweet. That was one of like my big first Hearthstone in-person tournaments, which kind of you were talking about like your experience first being there. So DreamHack is pretty sweet, and I really hope that you know, the DreamHack Magic events go really, really well for you as well. It'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, DreamHack is a fun time. It's like a unique, different type of atmosphere. I haven't been to a lot of conventions, but like that was cool. When I went to Dallas and won, I also won COVID, which was not great. But you know, you take the good with the bad.
Yeah, probably not really the prize that you were looking for.
Not quite. I came home and I also was like, hey, good news to my partner. I was like, I won the tournament. Also, here's COVID. So I gave her COVID too. Yeah. She wasn't happy with me.
Oh no. All right. Well, are there any other things that either of you would like to bring up for kind of this roundtable topic, talking about Barcelona and the Pro Tour before we move into some lightning round questions?
That's all I got. You covered it really comprehensively. This is a really good breakdown, especially not knowing like how the Pro Tour system works. So I feel like I have a good understanding of it, and
Yeah.
really looking forward to hearing the results that follow.
Thanks. I'm excited that this system exists at all. Like when they announced it, it had to have been like spring 2022. They were like, we're finally going back to organized play in paper. Like here's the system, here's how it works. And just getting to start at the local level and then queue for the regionals that are held at DreamHack is a really cool. As much as there's a lot of people who complain like, oh my god, I can't stop O2 dropping these locals. Oh no, like that, that's gonna happen. Like
Yep.
I have found there's more variance in like who you're getting matched up against and what you're gonna play against at the local level than when you get to these bigger tournaments. The trade-off is the skill level is higher in the bigger tournaments, but you can way more accurately predict the meta and pick your deck and sideboard choices and all of that accordingly. And so being able to play at the local level, and in fact, when you queue for regionals in DreamHack, I could pull it out of my bag, but they give you a little like DreamHack name tag that's got like your name and how you qualified for regionals. And if you qualified at a local qualifier, it has the store's name on the tag too. So I think it's like really cool way to like honor like the local, like the LGSs, the local game stores, and the like their contribution to this system as well. It's really, really cool. And so in fact, I got sponsored by the store that I won my local qualifier for Dallas, because I had also won my season 1 qualifier for DreamHack Atlanta through their store as well, like the 2 seasons prior. And so they were like, yeah, you keep crushing our events. Like, let's, we want to support you. They made me a play mat. They sent me some like deck boxes and booster packs and stuff. And they've been really, really supportive. It's been really cool. But yeah, no, the experience is great. And I love that, like, I have friends who are still grinding these things, and I'm already queued for Atlanta, so I don't have to worry about it all summer, which is great. So like that was another thing too, where if the Pro Tour didn't go well, at least I don't have to like grind anything over the summer while I'm traveling, and Atlanta is like waiting for me as like, okay, I have another shot to get back on the Pro Tour in December. Like, okay, but no, we just like check that one off out of the way, I guess.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. The local level tournaments are great. I'm glad that there is a system in place for people to get started. And they're tough. There are a lot of local end bosses in Nashville. And I guess I'm one of them now. So that's interesting. And we'll see how it goes from there. But I'm glad that there's a way for people to get in that at least like makes sense. And if you get lucky and you spike a regionals like me, you can, see what happens.
That's awesome. All right. Name change. Here we go. Thomas End Boss Gun. Let's go.
Thomas End Boss.
Love it. All right. Well, I think we are going to move into our lightning round here. So we do have some questions. Did send you those show notes, so hopefully you have reviewed those at least a little bit. If not, and that's totally fine too. But these are meant to just be kind of like, just like your quick gut reaction answers, just like the first thing that comes to your mind. And we'll ask one or two that aren't on here, keep you on your toes. But we'll alternate back and forth asking you these questions. And then, like I said, just give us your gut reaction there, that first answer that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. First question. If you were a card from any of the card games you've played, which one would you be?
I'm gonna go with Magic, and I had like 2 thoughts about this when I read this through the show notes, but I'm gonna go with the one that's a little bit more accurate to my character as a person. I'm gonna go with Lurrus of the Dream Den. Lurrus is one of the companions that was printed in Ikoria that broke Magic the Gathering for a few months, and the Lurrus's whole clause is you could only have decks, like cards in your deck that cost permanent cards in your deck that cost 2 or less, and she can get them back out of the graveyard once per turn. And so, as the eldest sibling of my family, I feel like I'm their third parent to a few of them at least. I love them all so much. They're my biggest support system, my favorite people outside of my partner and my parents, and I just I wouldn't be who I am without them. And so I like to think of, I'm the pack leader. I'm the one keeping track of all the cubs. I'm the one, just rallying the troops. That's been kind of my role over the years. And so, Luris of the Dream Den is just kind of like the mom of the pack. That I relate to that pretty strongly.
Nice. That was a great answer. I was kind of hoping for Gingerbrute, but it is.
I mean, that's fair too. That's fair too. I was starting to think of like, is there something from Hammer? I don't know. No, let's go with. Well, we used to play Luris, and then Luris got banned in Modern because Luris is cracked. So, yeah,
fair.
But now we get to play with Cauldra because we couldn't play with 7 mana cards with Luris as a companion. But anyway.
Well, excellent answer. Definitely well thought out. Our next one here is your favorite type or archetype of deck to play.
I definitely have to say aggro control, like a deck and this is more emblematic of what I play in Pioneer in Blue-White Spirits, a little closer than in Hammer, though you could argue that Hammer is a little bit like aggro control, where I want to be assertive. I want to be the first person putting questions in play that my opponent has to have the right answers to, and if they don't, then I'm just going to keep gaining advantage. And I like being able to navigate around exactly how they want to play the game and continue to just keep pressuring them with the aggressive start. And in the case of Pioneer with the Blue-White Spirits decks, I have counter spells, I have protection spells, I have ways to invalidate whatever my opponent is trying to do while I keep up a steady stream of threats and pressure. So I like to make sure that I'm the one in the driver's seat for as much of the game as possible, and keep pushing a steady threat a long way.
Nice, I love it.
Yep. I was gonna say, I think that's very in line with Ron and I's play style as well.
Initiative with flexibility, like that is everything I want. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. The next question we have is, what is one goal that you have for yourself in the card game sphere?
The first thing I thought of was I have a goal for Pro Tour Chicago, and that goal is to do better in draft. I went 1 and 2 losses in both of my drafts at the Pro Tour, and I would love to go 2-1 in a draft. Like not even going to put out like I'm going to leave the door open for a 3-0. That's certainly possible. That would be really awesome. But I'm gonna work really hard in the draft format, whatever that is in Chicago, and I'm gonna try and get that 2-1 to start the day.
Nice. Our last lightning round question that you may be prepared for, at least. I always find this one kind of hard. Do you prefer physical or digital cards?
I prefer physical cards, which is not to take away from digital cards, because I play a lot of like Arena and Magic Online, especially preparing for this event. But I prefer physical cards. I like shuffling them. I like being able to read my opponents a little bit more, like in face to face in a tournament setting. But also I've just been, ever since I was little, just like I'd lay out all my Pokemon cards on the floor and like resort them and count them. Like I feel like I'm one of the fastest card sorters out there, which I don't know what kind of a brag or flex that is, but I like genuinely enjoy sorting cards. So definitely pro physical, but not to take away from anything digital.
Solid.
Yep. Good answer. All right, here's one that we don't have written down.
Okay.
And I would like to ask you, which is your favorite Magic color to play?
Ooh. You wouldn't believe it based on the decks I've been playing recently, but I probably have to say red. I love a good burn deck. I love going fast. When I play popper events with my friends back home, I just play burn. It's it's fun. A while ago I would have said blue, but I think red is also just more emblematic of my passionate composure and my just want to go fast. Ginger brute, just go. You can't catch me.
Nice. I have a one that I wanted to deviate a little bit from card games because you do so many other things too.
Mhm.
So because we know that you're also a musician, I wanted to hear what would you think is your biggest musical influence?
I would have to say Green Day's pretty high up there. I would also give honorable mentions to David Bowie, Idols recently, Noah Kahn recently, also from Vermont. Growing up in a more Christian environment, listening to things like Switchfoot, Reliant K, those were very influential on me at a younger age. But definitely, Green Day definitely takes the cake. Green Day definitely takes the cake, and Bowie's not too far behind.
Nice.
And like Broadway musicals and things like that. Yeah.
I could definitely hear that influence in some of the some of your stuff on Spotify for sure. Which yeah, I will just I think I messaged you this, but man, just listening to your music, your singing, your playing and stuff on Spotify while I was working on show notes, I was like, this I think is probably just now going to be music that I just want to listen to while I'm doing work, like putting show notes together, like and going
Thank you.
forward, because it was wonderful. It was great to listen to. I could kind of go really easily between like just sitting there listening and focusing on the music to having it in the background. And honestly, for listening to music, especially while you're working, I think that is super important. So the fact that I could do that, it was just like all of a sudden I'd just be like pulled out of the show notes to be like, wow, oh, I like this. Oh,
Well, thank you.
oh yeah,
I appreciate
okay.
that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for creating wonderful stuff, and thank you for joining us on the show, because it was an absolute pleasure to chat with you and just get to listen to your experience and talk about card games with you. So if there are places that people might want to go to find out more about you, whether that's magic related, music related, plug all the places, please, that people can go to find more about you.
Sure. Well, thank you both for having me. It was an absolute blast. If folks want to look me up, find me other places, I'm at Thomas Does a Lot, just all one word, on pretty much everything at this point. I'm slowly putting everything into one. It's been like Thomas Gunn Music versus all these other things for a long time, but I think I'm just coalescing it all into at Thomas Does a Lot. So that's on Twitter, on Twitch, and I'm hoping to get into doing some more streaming over this month while I'm in Vermont. And Instagram and TikTok, though I'm still working on getting a little bit more active on TikTok. Working on that. It's been a busy summer. I got a lot of show clips to backlog and put up, so it's been pretty great. Yeah, so at Thomas Does a Lot. You can find me on Spotify if you search Thomas Gunn. The album is a painting of what looks like a head on fire with fish swimming through it. And yeah, I think those are really the major ones. Yeah, I think that's it.
Fantastic. Well, as we come to the conclusion of our show, just want to say thank you so much again for joining us this week, and thank you to the viewers at home, listeners, if you're not watching. And if you or someone you know might be interested in joining us, please reach out to us. You can email us at tccgroundtable@protonmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, TCCG Roundtable. You can use our top pinned tweet for a link to our Discord, or use the link in the description or show notes. You can check out our video version at YouTube, dragonrider TCCG. You can find us everywhere you find audio podcasts. And our fantastic Inked Gaming affiliate, which helps support us directly, can also help you get sweet merch like playmats and other card game accessories. You can find the link, of course, in our description and show notes. And you can find us individually. For myself, I'm on Twitter at Ron_HS. You can also find me on YouTube at RonMexico HS. And you can find me streaming on Twitch Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern at RonMexico HS. And Dawn, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at DonnieDK. That's DAWNIEDK. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube, dragonrider TCCG. And, probably an easy place to find all of the different things and all of the different connections is through my website, dragonridertccg.com.
Perfect. And thank you once again, and we will see you at the roundtable.